Okay, everybody, this is section 5.3. This is slope-intercept form, so a really important formula here that we got to learn how to kind of plug stuff into and be able to write an equation of a line. So we're going to write an equation that represents what a line's doing on a graph, a couple of really important things that we need to be able to identify. And so really important too to go back, look at your notes, make sure you study these a little bit more. Once again, I go kind of quickly during these, so please make sure if you get kind of behind on your notes, hit pause, get caught up on your notes, and then hit play again. You have a bunch of definitions to start off with here: a parent function, a linear equation, and then a y-intercept. Okay. A parent function, you're going to hear this in a bunch of different things as we go through math. It's just the simplest part of a function. Remember, a function is just an equation. You put something in, you get something out. A linear equation, though, is more what we're really focused on here. The parent function for a linear equation is this. Okay. Where y equals x, that's just the simplest form of what we're going to be working with. Okay, ours are going to look pretty much different, but that's kind of the simplest form of it. The other one term that you need to know is a y-intercept, and that's going to be really important. We're going to have a graph, and a line's going to cross a graph somewhere on the y-axis, and we need to identify that point. So if you look at this particular graph here, and my y, the line crosses the y-axis at +4, and I could find another point. Remember, we did this in our last section. If I find another point between +4 and then this point right here, I found my y-intercept, which was 4, and we call it b in our formula. I'll show you that in a second. So my b equals 4. My slope, I went down 2 and over 3 to get from one point to the next. And then that's going to be numbers that I want to use in my formula. And here's my formula: slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b. M is your slope. M is your slope. B now is my y-intercept. So when I identify certain things from my graph, like finding my slope, which was -2/3, and finding my y-intercept, which in the formula is the letter b, I can now just go and plug them in. Okay, so now I could take this formula that I've got right here, and I can go plug these numbers into this, and this is my answer. Okay. So y equals -2/3x plus 4. I just substituted for m, and I substituted for b. Okay. So pretty simple. When you got a picture, you can count squares. You're just going to replace your m and b in this formula. So you got to know that, this formula. Okay. It's something you're going to have to memorize. Okay. All right. Going here. These particular problems now, they've got it in slope-intercept form. So they just want to identify your slope, what's my m, and what is my b. That's the only things that I'm looking for, slope and y-intercept. So remember, slope is letter m, and that's the number that's in front of the x. So this is going to be a 5. And you can think of it as 5/1 if you want, because it is rise over run. So that means I go up 5 and over 1. My b is this number. Now you got to make sure that you bring whatever signs in front of it, you have to bring it with it. So in this case, it will be a -2. That means I start my graph at -2. Okay. My m in this case is -3, and you can think of it as -3/1. My b is here, so it's a +1. All right. This one kind of sometimes gets us a little discombobulated. My m is what's ever in front of the x, so it's a +1/4, but I don't have anything out here. So we don't typically write things like +0. Okay, so it's there, but we don't usually write it. So your b in this case is going to be 0 if there's nothing else out there. Okay. All right, so that's just identifying things, writing them down, knowing where to start. What's my slope? Where do I start? What's my slope? Where do I start? What's my slope? Okay. Second one down here is being able to write the equation when they give you the slope and they give you a y-intercept. So we're thinking of this, and I just want to replace this and this with information that's given to me. So my slope is m, my y-intercept is b. So I can take this equation and replace things, the m and the b. Okay. Since this is a 7, it's plus 7. Okay, so that's just taking stuff and plugging it in. It shouldn't be a difficult process. All right. In problem number 3, it's just being able to look at my graph and be able to write the equation. So once again, I want to use my picture now to get the information. What is my m? What is my b? So the first thing I'm going to do is, where does it cross the y-axis? That's going to be my b. So it crosses it at -2. And then I want to find another point where we had grid lines that come together. We did this in the previous section, and it all comes together right there. So I went up 2 and over 1. So my m is 2, or I could write it as 2 over 1. And now I could take those and go plug them in here. So y equals 2x. You could write it as 2 over 1 also. And it was a -2, so -2 is my y-intercept, or my b. Okay. All right. So now this is kind of really, this problem right here is really what you have to be able to do. So you might want to star this and really come back and look at it. They want me to write the equation in slope-intercept form. So they want me to do this. Okay, and they give me 2 points. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to have to do is go find the slope. So I'm going to have to use this. We learned this in a previous section. I'm going to have to do that first. So remember, we like to identify your x and your y. And I have to get slope first. I can't do anything until I get slope. So go ahead and plug that in. So my y1 is 1, my y2 is a -8. So make sure you're good with your signs there. My x1 is 1, and my x2 is 5. Okay. Oops, I'm sorry, screwed up here. My x1 is a 2. Okay, be careful with putting stuff in. So these are going to change signs here. So I get 9. 2 minus 5 is a -3. Reduces down to -3. There's my slope. Okay, but I have to also get my b. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this equation to help me get that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come back to my 2 points here, and I'm going to pick one of them. You get to pick, so it's kind of nice you get control. I like to pick numbers that are both positive if I can, or if I got a 1 or a 0 in the point. So I'm going to pick that one because it's easy. I have an x and a y there, so I'm going to go back here. I'm going to plug in stuff for x and y and for m because I just found it. All right, so my y at that point was 1. My slope is -3 times your x. My x from that point was 2 plus b. That's what I'm going to use this little formula to get my b. Okay. So 1 equals -3 times 2 is -6 plus b. To solve for b, I'm going to add 6, and I get my b is 7. Okay. So now what I can do is go write the equation. All right. In this form, y equals my slope, which was -3, x plus my b, which was 7. Okay, so this is something on a test, on a skill test, you're going to have to be able to do this over and over and over again. Really important that you are able to do this. So make sure you keep looking at it, practice it hard, ask for help. Okay. On this one, they want me to graph this. So remember this number right here is your slope. This number right here is your V, and that just tells you what to do. So first off, sometimes the y-intercept is also called the starting point. So that's where I'm going to start. I'm going to start on the y-axis at -1, and my slope is 2, which really means 2 over 1. So it's positive. I'm going to go up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1, and keep on going. Sometimes I like to come back to my starting point and go in the opposite direction. So down 2, left 1, just so I get another point on the other side of the starting point, and you can draw your line. Okay. Sorry, not a very straight line. Okay. Lastly, being able to write a function. So we have a plumber that charges $65 for a repair plus $35 an hour. So basically, they're going to charge me $65 just to come and knock on the door and say, here we are. And they're going to walk in and check things out, and then they're going to start working, and then they're going to charge me $35 per hour. So my cost is Y, okay? My change, my rate of change, my slope is the $35 per hour, which is X. And my starting point, you know, just to show up is $65, okay? So let's find $65 on the y-axis. That's my starting point. It's probably right about there. And I go up $35 for every hour that they're going to work. So probably right about there, probably right about here, probably right about here. Sorry, the graph's not a little bit better. Okay, and that's going to show my cost as the plumber comes in and does their job. Okay. All right, so it's really important that you do a really good job on your classwork, get a lot of, get it done, ask for help, do a good job with it. Really important you get this down because you will use it a lot as we move forward in this class and in your other math classes. Okay. All right, take care.